Welcome to Grow Virtually, an online horticultural educational program presented by the Master Gardener Volunteers of Cobb County. Under the guidance of the University of Georgia Cooperative Extension Service, we grow gardeners.
Manager to be observing my bees, their behaviors, looking for diseases, treating them if necessary. We have beekeepers watching out for invasive threats like the yellow-legged hornet. So honeybees, they're getting a lot of help. Tons of research happening. Of course, out at UGA, we've got the honeybee lab there. All kinds of people working on how to protect them from varroa mites, other types of pests, pathogens, all those problems. Native bees, not so much. Native bees don't really have anybody in their corner working extensively to help them. So the majority of bumblebee species are in serious decline. Native bee species as a whole in general are in decline. Used to be 8 species of bees listed on the endangered species list. I've had to since cross that out and make it 9 because last year a bee called Franklin's bumblebee was added to the endangered species list. And to give you an idea of how slowly the wheels of bureaucracy grind, especially when it comes to listing animals on the endangered species list, no one has seen an individual Franklin's bumblebee for 20 years. So the likelihood that this bee still exists in the wild is very, very small. It is likely already extinct. So when it comes to trying to get new species of insects, other types of animals listed as endangered, it can sometimes take longer than those animals actually have to get the protections that they need. If you're interested in learning more about native bees, this book down here on the end called Bee Basics, an introduction to our native bees. It's a free book that you can get on the internet as a PDF. It's very short and concise, but it's beautifully illustrated, has wonderful information. You can just Google Bee Basics PDF. It's a publication of the National Forest Service and the USDA. Common Native Bees of the Eastern U.S. is a great little pamphlet-size book by Heather Holm. If you really want to know everything there is to know about native bees, or just all the kinds of bees that are in North America, then the bees in your backyard is really the Bee Bible, and then some websites that can be very useful, including Cater, that's my website, and Xerces, and of course BC USA. So that's my presentation for you. If you have questions, I'd be happy to try to answer them.
Somebody told me that if you buy an artificial wasp nest and hang it up near the carpenter bees, that they will go away.
Yeah, so
is that true?
So they do sell things like that. Sometimes people also say hang up a paper bag. The idea there is that the bald-faced hornets, who make those big gray paper nests, often up in trees, the idea is that the carpenter bees would be afraid of them and wouldn't want to nest in that area. It's never worked for me. I've heard people try it out, and you can try it out, but it's really, really hard to deter carpenter bees once they've started nesting where they are. It's really hard to make them go away.
So what do you suggest?
Yeah, okay. So like I said, at my website at beecaterga.com, I have a whole page dedicated to carpenter bees, all kinds of links to information, including some information about how to get rid of them. What I recommend to people, though, is the strategy that I employ at my house. At my house, the carpenter bees love to be in the fascia board on the garage. Fascia board goes up and down to the peak of the garage. They are all in it there. There must be 9 holes on each section. I let them do their thing. And every 7 or 8 years, when it's time to paint the garage, I have those pieces of fascia board knocked off, new ones nailed up, painted, and I treat it as a home maintenance issue. Treat it as a home maintenance issue. Again, they don't eat wood, they just nest in it. Left unchecked, everybody's always got a story about their grandfather in Tennessee. For some reason, it's always their grandfather, and it's always in Tennessee, how his barn fell down after 75 years. But yeah, if you don't do any maintenance on your grandfather's barn in Tennessee for 75 years, it's going to fall down. So they don't eat the wood like termites. Of course, you know, if you have a house, if you have a mortgage in Georgia, you have to get a bond for termite damage. Your mortgage lender, they don't make you get a bond against carpenter bees, and that's because carpenter bees aren't going to make your house fall down. They can do some damage over long periods of time. I treat it as a home maintenance issue. I replace pieces as needed over long periods of time. Other things people try though is like painting. They'll live in painted wood. Pressure treated wood, they'll live in that. Yeah, there's all kinds of things people try. They're very hard to deter.
Well, carpenter bees return to the same hole so that year after year, so if you don't plug them up or whatever, they'll just reuse the same hole?
Yeah, so like I said, they do have overlapping generations, and they will live in that hole for a long period of time. So yeah, they will continue to nest. The new bees, though, the young that they produce, will make their own holes elsewhere eventually. Kind of interesting, while we're talking about bees and carpenter bees, there's a new type of bee, relatively new, last 8 years. Again, came to us from Asia via a container ship, most likely, called the giant resin bee. Megachymades sculpturalis. And the giant resin bee is a bee that I get a lot of questions about. People send me a lot of photos of, asking what it is. It's kind of an interesting bee that UGA is, again, interested in studying. They were asking for people to report it when they saw it a couple of years ago. Because what the giant resin bee does is it also nests in large holes, not unlike the bee hotel that you have there. One of the holes that it loves to nest in are the holes that carpenter bees make. And what it does, it's called a resin bee because it collects sticky resins from plants, and it'll actually go in the carpenter bee hole and entomb the carpenter bees with this sticky resin that will harden to be, rock hard, and it will take over the carpenter bee nest. So UGA was interested in studying this introduced resin bee to try to get a sense of whether it could eventually threaten the native carpenter bees that we have here. So just interesting little aside.
You talk about your garage problem with your fascia board. Instead of using regular wood for the fascia board to replace it, could you use a composite material?
Hardy plank will stop them, or concrete board. Yeah, they don't like to live in that. They prefer the soft woods like pine that we use a lot in building. But certainly some of the new composite materials they're not interested in. Yeah.
Safe to say that yard or lawn services that treat the grass also kill the bees that nest in there?
Well, that's a good question. A lot of what gets put down are fertilizing products, although certainly some of the herbicides that kill emergent plants can definitely affect ground nesting bees. Anything that we put down into the ground is going to get down to where they live and be partially absorbed by them. The real problem with lawn care like that is, of course, we tend to want to have very neat, tidy lawns without weeds, but those weeds in early spring are food for bees. So things like dead nettle and violets and what's the one that's like dead nettle, often confused? Henbit. Henbit, dead nettle, violets, other spring emerging weeds like that. They provide an incredibly vital source of pollens for early spring bees. So our efforts to get rid of all the weeds really are getting rid of a lot of food that at certain times of year are critical. Dandelions also. Yeah.
What about the sleeping habits of bees?
Sleeping habits of bees. Yeah, well, bees do have to sleep. They do have to sleep just like we do. Someone asked me earlier today about bees that they observed sleeping on flowers, and you will see that sometimes. You will see especially male bees sleeping on flowers sometimes, and just be kind of hanging out. And, carpenter bees, bumblebees, a lot of times the ones you see sleeping on flowers. Usually be the male. What percentage of bees are capable of stinging? Well, down in South America, there are, and in Australia also, there are bees that are called stingless bees. But here in the United States, the percentage of bees capable of stinging is 100%, but only if they are females. So one thing that is true of all bees, regardless of species, only the females have stingers. Male bees do not sting. That is true of honeybees, it's true of mason bees, it's true of bumblebees, it's true of mining bees. Male bees cannot sting, they do not have stingers. While we're talking about bees and stinging, honeybees famously leave behind a stinger and die after they sting. Other types of bees and wasps do not do that. If you have a stinger in your skin, you've been stung by a honeybee. Other types of bees do not leave a stinger. Other types of bees can sting multiple times. However, of the bees we talked about tonight, almost none of them will ever sting you. Well, you know what? I'm going to rephrase that because you're all gardeners. I'm guessing that some of you have probably been stung by a sweat bee.
Carpenter bee.
Yeah, you're out there working. They're called sweat bees because they like to drink your perspiration. Just like us, bees need moisture. They need water. They also need minerals like salt. Sweat bees, other types of bees will land on your skin, lick your perspiration. So you're out there in your garden and you pick up your trowel and you feel a little pinch in your glove and out flies the sweat bee. Yeah, they deliver a little mild sting. Some types of bees like bumblebees, they will sting if you stumble upon their nest and get too close to their nest, or you're digging and you put a shovel into it. Oh, they'll sting you all right. They can sting over and over again. But for the most part, all bees, wasps, when they're visiting flowers, when they're foraging for food, they have absolutely no interest in stinging us. The ones that are more prone to sting are the social insects, like honeybees, bumblebees. We're talking wasps, it's the yellow jackets, it's the bald-faced hornets, ones that live in large groups. These solitary bees, they live alone, they have no interest in trying to mess with you. Their number one defense is escape. All these pictures I took, I could show you my phone. It's got tens of thousands of photos where there's just a blurry bee, or the bee isn't there at all. They're very hard to photograph because they are very skittish, very shy, and generally will make themselves scarce if you come too close. Yeah.
We hope that you will find our information informative and helpful. Thanks for watching, and please remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel.